Well, it's been a long time since our grape vineyard here has looked this barren. The trellis is absolutely cleaned up because we pulled up our mature grapes that we've had in the ground for about 7 years because we're going to actually bump up some improved varieties and plant here. Plus, a lot of people really don't understand how to get a small grape that looks like this to train and go on a huge trellis and be that aggressive. So we're going to show you how to do that. Now, first of all, if you're planting grapes for the first time, you need to keep in mind some things, especially about site location. Grapes actually prefer full sun, so you need to get them in a full sun area. And generally, the literature will tell you to plant them in rows going north and south. Well, that is because you'll get more sunlight on each side of the grapes, and grapes need a lot of sun to actually ripen up and turn sweet and get a lot of sugars in them. But if you'll notice, our rows are going east and west. So we have to be more careful during the summer to prune them a little bit during the summer to make sure we're getting a lot of sunlight on them. So spacing is real important, sunlight, drainage, those kinds of things are always important. And anytime that you have fruit crops growing, you want to make sure you have well-drained soils. Now, most of you know, especially in the central part of the state, our soils are very heavy. So once we pulled up our grapes, we came in with a lot of organic matter here in the beds. We tilled them up, we tried to keep from compacting them down, and we've raised them up probably 6 to 8 inches with the slope for good drainage, but we still have good organic matter in them to hold moisture. So soil preparation is very important, and this is also the time that you should do the soil test now that you've revamped the bed to know, do you need to put something in ahead of time? So that's why bed preparation in the fall, so you'll have time to test, is so important. Our test tells us that we still don't need any phosphorus, potassium, primarily nitrogen. So we didn't do anything to the beds at all. Now, pH should be anywhere from 5.5 to 6.5, and that's a little bit acidic, so traditionally lime is not needed unless it's too acid. So our beds are ready to go, and we're going to be planting in these raised beds, and our spacing is about 12 feet between the trellis system. And actually, grapes need only about 6 to 8 feet. Now, they're going to be much more aggressive than that, and they're going to grow past that, but you have to keep them under control. Now, when you're selecting your varieties, make sure that you get ones that are cold hardy for Oklahoma conditions, and we've done that. We've selected Venus and Rubaiyat. Now, our grapes came in much earlier than our beds were ready to let us plant because of the rainfall, so we hilled them in, so to speak, in some sand, kept them moist. You can do this outside, just try to keep them from freezing completely, but they'll take quite a bit of cold. Then prior to planting, soak your rootstock and your plants, the cuttings or whatever, in the water for a couple of 3 hours. Now, sometimes when you buy grapes, they may have bags on them like there's a lot of soil, but usually it's just like sawdust or something that's holding the moisture in around the roots. If that falls off, it's okay because you plant them bare root generally. Now, this one is Reliance. The others that we'll be planting are Venus. Grapes do not need pollinators unless they're muscadines. You plant them the same depth that they were grown, and we want to be real careful not to compact the soil again, and you just place the soil around it nicely, and we'll leave just a little bit of indentation there to hold moisture initially. Now, when you're selecting grapes, again, do your homework. Do you want ones that are for fresh or table? Do you want some that are for wine making, for cooking? There's various choices. These are table grapes, so hopefully they'll ripen at the same time and we can use them for various purposes. Now, the Venus is almost a month earlier than the Reliance, and hopefully that will help us in disease resistance. And any time that you can get disease resistance in the plants, that's so important. And these are somewhat tolerant to black rot and the diseases, but if you can get your harvest earlier too, a lot of times you can get them done before you have to spray so many times on it. Once they're planted, go ahead and mulch. Now, a lot of people who do this commercially will have drip irrigation. We've got irrigation, but it overlaps a little bit. Now, we're using pine straw, which will actually make the soil a little bit acidic, and it's good to use in our orchard because it packs down, it allows moisture drainage, those kinds of things. It doesn't change the soil pH too drastically, but we don't use it under the pines because it will reinfect the pines with a needle blight, so that's real important too. Now, a lot of people are asking, how in the world am I going to get a dormant plant like this to grow and spread up all over the trellis? Well, notice that we're using a 4-arm conifer system, and that's because we're going to train it up the trellis, and then it's going to have 4 arms on it that will actually produce the grapes. So we're really not going to worry about much this time of year, other than while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to hang a piece of twine from the top right in the center, and then I'm going to wrap that once around the center one, and I'm going to go ahead and cut a piece off long enough to go down to the base. And what we'll do is, as the plant grows, we're not going to prune on it any at all, but I'm going to put these clips on that you can get, or you can use twine, anything at all. And as the plants grow up, we'll force them to make a central leader right up through the top, and we'll keep you informed on how to do that as the plant grows and progresses. Now, obviously, there's all kinds of information out there on growing grapes. A lot of good information that's developed by the Extension Service. A new fact sheet, as a matter of fact, 6246, called Growing Grapes in the Home Garden by Dr. Julia Whitworth, our small fruit specialist. Talks about all the cultivars. We've talked about bed preparation, which varieties are good for Oklahoma, how to prune them, train them. So stop by your county extension office, and also don't forget the home fruit planting guide and get some good information. And you've got until the end of March to get those grapes planted.